To White House says jobs surging among U.S.-born. Here's what economists say. A news story written by Abha Badarai and read by an AI-generated voice. The Trump administration has railed against government data, casting doubt on monthly jobs figures and calling for an overhaul of GDP calculations. But there's one number White House officials are happy to tout. 2 million new jobs this year for workers born in the United States, referred to as native-born among statisticians. Right now, we're seeing American workers are being put first. Native-born workers account for all of the job growth, and that's key, Labor Secretary Lori Chavez de Remer said this month on Fox Business. The American worker is going to win in this occasion because the president has their back. President Donald Trump aims to deport enough immigrants to create new job opportunities for Americans. That could happen eventually. But so far, economists on both sides of the aisle say they have seen no evidence that American-born workers are picking up jobs vacated by immigrants. They also say figures for native and foreign-born workers should not be used to gauge the current state of the labor force. Looking at the number of native-born workers is not the correct way to read the jobs report, said Jed Kolko, a senior fellow at the Peterson Institute for International Economics and a former Commerce Department economist. Here's what we know about how immigration declines and deportations are reshaping the job market. Fewer immigrants are in the labor force. The number of immigrants working in the United States has declined this year, economists agree. After years of labor market growth among immigrants, this year could mark a turning point, with more immigrants exiting the United States than arriving. That could result in a net drop in migration for the first time in at least 50 years, economists say. The Trump administration has prioritized deportations this year, with Immigration and Customs Enforcement deporting about 150,000 people from the country, according to a person familiar with federal data, who spoke on the condition of anonymity to share the internal data. U.S. Customs and Border Protection has also carried out deportations. Refugee programs have been slashed, and unauthorized crossings at the southern border have declined sharply this year. In addition, hundreds of thousands of immigrants in the United States have been stripped of temporary protected status, making it illegal for them to continue working. Fewer people are coming in, many are being deported, and others are being stripped of their legal ability to work, said Stuart Anderson, executive director of the National Foundation for American Policy, a nonpartisan think tank. When you combine all of those things, it's clear that we have fewer foreign-born workers than we did a year ago. Still, economists say they don't know exactly how many fewer immigrants are working than they were in 2024. Population counts from the census and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, come with large caveats. More on that shortly. What is clear, though, is the share of immigrants with jobs has fallen in the past year, from 64.1% to 63.4% in July. The share of native-born people with jobs also has fallen, though the declines have been less pronounced. The Trump administration pushed back against the notion that U.S.-born workers are not benefiting directly from its immigration policies, saying there is no dispute that President Trump's policies put American workers first, not foreigners. Unlike Joe Biden, President Trump's common-sense policies are prioritizing American workers, who have been undermined by illegal labor and bad trade deals that shipped jobs overseas. White House spokeswoman Taylor Rogers said in a statement, adding, "The president's immigration enforcement efforts and trade deals have encouraged businesses to hire American workers at higher wages. The funky math behind counts of native-born workers. Looking at BLS reported counts for July, it appeared that more than 2 million native-born workers had joined the labor force over the past year. The number of foreign-born workers, meanwhile, appeared to have fallen by 237,000. Trump officials have touted that statistic. E.J. Antoni, Trump's nominee to lead the BLS, also posted the figure on X this month, after the latest jobs numbers came out. But BLS and census officials warn against using that data to draw conclusions about population counts, or comparing it with figures from previous years. Doing so would be a multiple count data felony, Kolko wrote this past week. One big reason is that the data is hemmed in by a population estimate set by the Census Bureau in January, before anyone had any idea how immigration enforcement was going to play out. Basically, the number of foreign-born and native-born workers have to add up to a total based on the census estimate, according to several economists consulted by the Post. As a result, any drop in foreign-born workers artificially boosts the number of native-born workers reported each month. Although immigration has declined significantly this year, this isn't being accurately reflected in workforce counts, said Wendy Edelberg, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution. The native and foreign-born data in question comes from the Current Population Survey, a monthly undertaking by the Census Bureau. which collects information from 60,000 U.S. households, with members responding to questions over the phone or in in-person interviews. Their answers are adjusted statistically to reflect trends in the broader population. One question the census asks, whether they are native-born or foreign-born. If there's a sudden drop in immigration or if fewer foreign-born residents respond to the survey, then by design, the number of native-born workers would almost certainly go up, Kolko said. The way the calculation is set up, it's not like you can lower the population of foreign-born workers without raising the population of native-born. As an extreme illustration, Kolko said that if the entire foreign-born population vanished at the end of July, this dataset would show the population of native-born residents skyrocketing by tens of millions of people. Self-reporting of foreign-born status. In addition, the government's data surveys rely on self-reporting. Economists note that immigrants nervous about their status could be reporting that they are native-born, which could also skew the numbers. The surge in native-born population mathematically would be difficult to explain with any other reason. UBS economists Jonathan Pingle and Alan Detmeister recently wrote, however, if households that previously reported themselves as foreign-born are now reporting themselves as native-born, that means comparing statistics based on the two classifications are not comparable over time. The data in question are complicated to collect, affected by recent large immigration swings, and not seasonally adjusted. Matt Wadinger, a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, a conservative think tank, wrote in a recent blog post, short-term changes always should be interpreted with care. Native-born Americans are faring worse in this economy. Despite the Trump administration's celebrations, other data suggests that U.S.-born workers are on less stable footing than their foreign-born counterparts this year. While economists take issue with foreign and native-born worker counts from the census survey, they say the unemployment rate, employment population ratio, and labor force participation rate provide a more accurate snapshot of the job market and how it has changed over time. Joblessness is actually higher among U.S.-born workers than among immigrants, and U.S.-born workers are more likely to be unemployed than they were a year ago, BLS data shows. The average unemployment rate for foreign-born workers stood at 4.1% between February and July, unchanged from the same period a year earlier. But native-born workers are more likely to be unemployed than they were a year ago, with an average 6-month unemployment rate of 4.3%, up from last year's 4%. The Labor Department, though, said the administration's tougher immigration policies have put a stop to the rampant illegal immigration that resulted in an erosion of wage gains for U.S.-born workers. The fact remains that under the president's leadership, American workers have increased job opportunities, better wages, and more bargaining power. Spokeswoman Courtney Perella said in a statement, "There's less demand for all workers. Demand for all workers has cooled as businesses defer hiring amid an uncertain economy. That has helped keep the unemployment rate at 4.2% steady, even though a smaller share of the U.S. population is working than in January. The diminishing need for new workers has caught the eye of Federal Reserve policymakers, who are trying to gauge whether recent slowdowns in monthly employment are a worrisome sign or simply a reflection of a shrinking labor force. You've got a very low unemployment rate, but also we know that because of immigration policy, really, the flow into our labor forces is just a great deal slower." Fed Chair Jerome H. Powell said last month, "Those two things have slowed more or less in tandem. Slower job growth in industries that rely on immigrants. Job growth in industries that rely heavily on immigrants has stalled this year, suggesting that U.S.-born workers are not filling the gaps left by foreign-born ones," Kolko said. His analysis of job growth shows that industries that employ high numbers of unauthorized immigrants, such as construction, restaurants, and home health care, started lagging other industries in mid-2024 and has been flat this year. The number of workers in warehousing and storage, for example, is down 6.4% from July 2024, BLS data shows. Employment has also fallen in childcare, down 2.5% from a year ago, food manufacturing down 2.1%, and textile mills down 1.5%. The much ballyhooed increase in native-born employment has not materialized, said Scott Lincecum, an economist at the Cato Institute, a libertarian think tank. Regardless of the data issues, there is no clear upsurge in the share of native-born people finding work because of either trade or immigration policies. Marianne Levine contributed to this report.